So this is your initial assessment. So what I want you to do is watch through this, make notes, and then if needs be, watch a question over and over again until you understand it. Right, first one, factorise completely. The fact that it says completely means that there's more than one step. So if you've got a cubic, the first thing you always do is you take out an x. So that's going to be x bracket 1 minus 4x squared. Now there's got to be another step. So what you've got to realise here is that this thing is the difference of two squares. 1 times 1 equals 1. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. So then we still have the x. Remember, we've got to keep that x. And we factorise that set of brackets. 1 times 1 is 1. 2x times 2x is going to be 4x squared. One of them's got to be positive, one of them's got to be negative. And doing that gets you the 3 marks. Next question. The next question was one that wasn't done perfectly. And you've got 8 to the power of 2x plus 3. And you've got to put that in the form y, so 2 to the power of something. So the first thing we notice here is that 8 is the same as 2 to the power of 3. So instead of saying 8 to the power of 2x plus 3, we can say 2 to the power of 3 to the power of 2x plus 3. And then if you do that, one thing that we should know with powers is that if you've got the brackets, you need to multiply the powers together. So we do 3 times by 2x plus 3. So that's going to be 2 to the power of 6x plus 9. And that's how to do that question. So again, because we want to write 8 to the power of something in the form 2 to the power of something, we can rewrite 8 as 2 cubed. There's 2 cubed to the power of that, and then you just multiply the powers of that. Okay, next question. Question 3. So we've got to express these two brackets here in this format here. So we've got to do the smiley face method. So 5 times 1 equals 5. Then we've got minus root 8 times root 2. Now you've got a negative times by a positive, so that's going to be a negative. And root 8 times root 2 is going to be root 16, which we'll simplify in a minute. Then we've got minus root 8 times 1, so that's going to be minus root 8. Then you've got 5 times root 2, so that's going to be plus 5 root 2. And getting that right gets you your first mark. Now, square root of 16 is 4. So 5 take away 4 is going to be, or in fact, let's just write it down as 5 take away 4, just that we show that we know what it is we're doing. 5 root 2 we can't simplify, but root 8 we can simplify. Root 8 is the same as root 4 times by root 2. So that's going to be minus 2 root 2. And then we simplify. So 5 take away 4 is 1. Minus 2 root 2 plus 5 root 2 is going to be plus 3 lots of root 2. Next, we've got to simplify this thing here. So root 80, we've got to simplify that. So that's going to be root 16 root 5. And we've just got to find two numbers that multiply together to make 80, and we can do the square root of one of them. And then with the 30 over root 5, what we do is we need to rationalise this, because we've got a third on the bottom, so we times top and bottom by root 5. And then if we do that, 16 root 5 is going to go, so root 16 root 5 goes down to 4 root 5. And then this one here goes to 30 root 5, and then root 5 times root 5 is going to be root 25. And then we've got to simplify that a little bit more. So 4 root 5 plus, now 30 root 5 we can't simplify, but square root of 25 is 5. So 30 divided by 5 is 6. So it's going to be 6 root 5. So we've got 4 root 5 plus 6 root 5, which equals 10 root 5. If you have a look here, it says you've got to leave it in the form something root 5, where something is an integer. That c is an integer. So the c is going to be 10, so it's 10 root 5. Okay, so with this one we've also got to do some rationalising. But here, because we've got root 5 minus 1 on the bottom, we always do multiply by that, but the conjugate. So it means that we need to multiply it by root 5 plus 1. We need to change the sign in the middle. So we times top and bottom by root 5 plus 1. So we've got 7, if you do my face on the top and the bottom, so 7 times root 5 equals 7 root 5. Root 5 times 1 is going to be plus root 5. Then we've got the nose, which is root 5 times root 5, which is square root of 25. Then 7 times 1, which is plus 7. Then on the bottom we got, if we do the same thing, we do root 5 times root 5, which is root 25. Minus 1 times 1, which is minus 1. Minus 1 times root 5, which is minus root 5. Root 5 times 1, which is plus root 5. Again, making sure that we've done that gets us 1 mark for times in top and bottom by root 5 plus 1. Then we've got to simplify it. So 7 root 5s plus a root 5, it's going to be 8 root 5. Then we've got root 25, which is 5, plus 7. So 5 plus 7 is 12. And then we've got square root of 25, which is 5. Take away 1, so that's going to be 4. So we need to have 4 on the bottom there. And then minus root 5 plus root 5, they cancel out. Once we've done this, we need to do 8 root 5 divided by 4 and 12 divided by 4. So 8 root 5 divided by 4 is going to be 2 root 5. 12 divided by 4 is going to be 3. And the reason that I've written it this way around is because it says something plus something root 5. So it's 3 plus 2 root 5. Next question. Find out the value of 8 to the power of 5 over 3. So the bottom is the root, and that's the first thing we deal with. So it's going to be the cube root of 8. Then whatever that is, we raise it to the power of 5. So the cube root of 8 is 2. So it's going to be 2 to the power of 5. So that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. Now this one wasn't done brilliantly. So we've got 2x to the power of a half to the power of 3 over 4x squared. So we're going to do the top first of all, or the numerator. So we're going to do 2 cubed, which is going to be 8. And we're going to do x to the power of a half cubed, so we just multiply the powers, so that's going to be x to the power of 3 over 2. And then we're going to simplify, so we do 8 divided by 4, which is 2. Now if we've got x to the power of 3 over 2 over, or divided by, x to the power of 2, that means subtract the powers. So that's going to be x to the power of minus 1/2, which equals 2 over x to the power of a half, or 2 over the square root of x. This or this will be enough to get you the mark. That's absolutely fine. Next one. Express 15 over root 3 minus root 27 in this format here. So just like the previous question, 15 over root 3. The way we're going to simplify this is we're going to times top and bottom by root 3. And then we're going to simplify square root of 27. So that's going to be the square root of 9 times the square root of 3. Because 9 times 3 is 27. Now if we do that, 15, that's going to be 15 root 3. And then root 3 times by root 3 is root 9, which is just 3. Minus root 9 is 3 root 3. Then what you do is you cancel down this fraction here. So that's 15 over 3, which is 5 root 3. Minus 3 root 3. So 5 root 3, take away 3 root 3. And you're left with 2 root 3. Now question 7. This was done brilliantly for part A, horrendously for part B. So let's see how we go about doing it. So 2 to the power of something is 8. So therefore we know that 2 cubed equals 8. So we know that y equals 3. Now this one we need to try and simplify, but we can't simplify because it's 2 to the power of something times 4 to the power of something. This isn't an easy question. But just like we did back up, where was it? Back up here, if we've got 8 to the power of something, we want it to be 2 to the power of something, we replaced 8 with 2 cubed. So here, going back down to this one, we're going to replace that with 2 squared. So we've got 2 to the power of x times by 2 squared to the power of x plus 1, and that equals 8. So if we then simplify this bit by multiplying the powers together, that's going to be 2 to the power of x times by 2 to the power of 2x plus 2 equals 8. And just like when you multiply two things with the same base, you add the powers. So x plus 2x plus 2 is going to simplify to 2 to the power of 3x plus 2 equals 8. So step 1, we simplify the 4 to 2 squared. Step 2, we multiply the powers because they're brackets. Step 3, if you've got 2 to the power of something times 2 to the power of something, we add the powers. So x plus 2x plus 2 is 3x plus 2. So now we've got 2 to the power of something equals 8. Just like we did here, 2 to the power of 3 equals 8, which means that this thing here must equal 3. So we know that 3x plus 2 must equal 3, so that it's 2 cubed. So we then do 3x, if we take away 2, 3x equals 1, x equals 1/3. Next question, and again, we should be seeing that these are repeating. So the next question is we're going to factorize out an x first of all, because it's a cubic. So x, 25 minus 9x squared. Now I know a lot of people try to get the 9x as the first thing. Don't worry about it. All you do is you see what times what equals 25, what times what equals 9x squared. So 5 times 5 makes 25. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. Make one of them positive, one of them negative. Couldn't be easier. Question 9. We had 81 to the power of 3 over 2. So we deal with the bottom first of all. So that's going to be the square root. Once we've done that, we're going to cube it. So the square root of 81 is 9. We're then going to cube it. So that's 9 times 9, which is 81. Times it by 9, which equals 729. And you might need to do some workings to do that. Question 9b, again, one that caused a lot of people difficulty, so I'm expecting people to really sort of take note of this bit of the video. First thing we're going to do is we're going to leave the x squared. We're going to deal with the power outside this bracket. So we're going to do 4 squared, then we're going to do this thing squared. So that's going to be 4 squared is 16. X to the power of minus a half squared, we need to multiply the powers together. So minus a half times 2 is going to be x to the power of minus 1. Now x to the power of minus 1 is simply 16 over x to the power of 1. Because remember, when you've got a negative power, put it down underneath and make it positive. So x squared times 16 over x. So that's going to be 16x squared over x. And you just cancel an x out from the top and the bottom, leaving you with 16x. And that's question 9, getting towards the end now. This one was done okay, I guess. The hardest thing about this one, though, is recognizing that it's not 2 plus root 5, it's just 2 root 5. So 2 root 5 squared means 2 root 5 times by 2 root 5. So 2 times 2 is 4. Root 5 times root 5 is 5. So that's 4 times 5, which equals 20. You don't do the smiley face method here, so you don't do 2 root 5. You can write it out 2 root 5, 2 root 5, but we don't do the smiley face method because there's no plus or minus in between. It's just 2 root 5 times 2 root 5. Another way of thinking about that is 2 root 5 is 2 times by root 5, and then you're timesing it by 2, timesing it by root 5. So 2 times root 5 times 2 times root 5, 2 times 2 is 4, root 5 times root 5 is 5, 4 times 5 is 20. Now, next one, easiest mark to begin with. So we times the top and bottom by the conjugate. And remember, the conjugate, it's just whatever's on the bottom, and you change it, or change the sign. So you're going to times the top by 2 root 5 plus 3 root 2, times the bottom by 2 root 5 plus 3 root 2, then you've got yourself an easy mark. So then we're going to do root 2 times 2 root 5, and that equals 2 root 10. Root 2 times that is going to be 3 times, well, root 2 times root 2 is 2, times by 3 is 6. So 2 root 10 plus 6, and just getting that gets you enough to get a mark for the numerator. So that's 1 mark for multiplying by the correct thing, 2 marks for getting the correct numerator. Obviously the correct denominator is going to be the next mark. So 2 root 5 times 2 root 5, as we discussed up here, is going to be 20. Minus 3 root 2 times root 3 over 2 is going to be a minus because you've got negative times a positive. 3 times 3 is 9. Root 2 times root 2 is 2, so 9 times 2 is 18. And then you've got plus 6 root 10. So, no, so that's minus 6 root 10 plus 6 root 10. And they cancel out, which leaves you with 2 on the bottom. So 2 root 10 plus 6 over 2. So 2 root 10 plus 6 over 2, which equals 1 root 10 plus 3. And they want it in this format here, so if we write it as 3 plus root 10. Next, we've got question 11. So this one, the fifth root, so this a fifth means the fifth root, so means fifth root of 32, which means something times something times something 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 is 32. We've already done that, and that's 2. Right, so now we've got to deal with this. So it's going to be 32 to the power of minus 2 fifths, and then x to the power of 5 times by 2 fifths. Now the fact we've got a negative here means what I'd do is I'll probably do 1 over 32 x to the 5 to the power of 2 fifths. And then we've dealt with the negative part of it. Now we've got to do x to the power of 5 to the power of 2 fifths, so we just multiply the powers, and we've got to do 32 to the power of 2 fifths. So it's going to be 1 over 32 to the power of 2 fifths. We know that 32 to the power of the fifth, so 32 to the power of 2 fifths. We do that to start off with. So the fifth of 32 is going to be 2. And then we do the top part of it, which is squared. So 2 squared is going to be 4. Then we've got to do, you've got to multiply the powers. So 5 times 2 over 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Over 5 is 2. So that's going to be over x squared. 1 over 4x squared. Now, question 12, our final question. We have to complete the square with this one. So whenever I complete the square, the first thing I do is I get rid of the number in front of the x squared. So I bring it out to the front and divide everything through by 4. So that's going to be x squared plus 2x plus 3/4. And I keep the 4 on the outside and I complete the square from what's inside. So that's going to be x plus 1 squared. And then I take away whatever this is squared. So take away 1, then plus 3/4. So step 1 is factorize out whatever's in front of the x, so in this case the 4. Then we factorize out the 4 here, divide everything through by 4. I then do completing the square with what's on inside. So that's going to be x plus half the coefficient of this, that's going to be x plus 1 squared. We then take away whatever that is, squared. Let's take away 1, and then we bring this plus 3/4 down. What we then do is we tidy up inside the brackets. That's going to be 4 lots of x plus 1 squared minus 1 plus 3/4 is going to be minus 1/4. And then we multiply the 4. So we're going to do 4 lots of this and 4 lots of this. So that equals 4 lots of x plus 1 squared. 4 lots of 1/4 is going to be minus 1. And that's it. And that last question really is quite tricky. And if you are still struggling with that one, come and see me on Monday. But that's how to pass the test that you did with 100%. And hopefully that's how to pass the next test with 100%, because there's not going to be any different questions. Just slightly different numbers. Okay, good luck.